Rebecca's introduction to Blackbird reminded me of Shrek trying to explain to Donkey what it means to be an ogre. Shrek says, "An ogre is like an onion." To which Donkey replies, "You mean they stink?" "No," Shrek said, "they're layered." Think layers. Over my head, I hear music in the air. Over my head, I hear music in the air. Over my head, I hear music in the air. There must be a God somewhere. Last week, several members of our community inquired about my comments regarding Barack Obama's decision to withdraw his membership from Trinity United Church of Christ on the south side of Chicago, a community in which he was married and his daughters baptized. There was concern that I was upset with Obama for leaving his church over the press related to his former minister, the Reverend Dr. Jeremiah Wright, and most recently a guest preacher who mocked presidential candidate Hillary Clinton. That's all right. That's all right. It gives me a breather too. That's all right. Though Obama has yet to declare where he will place his church membership, he indicated that he would seek, for the time being, a community where he could sit in the pews and reflect on good thoughts. What I found disturbing were the comments by the commentators who, though well-intentioned, truncated the human encounter with the divine, our faith journey, to sitting quietly in the pews thinking good thoughts. About what, I wonder? If this is the extent of our encounter with God, or perhaps God's and soul encounter with us as we sit faithfully in the pew, can we truly proclaim that faith matters? As Jesus was walking along, he saw a man called Matthew sitting in a tax booth, and he said to him, "Follow me." It's amazing how a sermon takes on a life of its own. When I first encountered the scripture reading this morning, I quickly chose the title, Death and Taxes, as there is a certain inevitability that we will pay taxes in one form or another. Too often we lose ourselves in arguments over how much we should pay, yet it would be more helpful to ask ourselves what services we expect our community to provide, to ask ourselves what are our obligations to one another, to consider our responsibilities to the generations to come. Though we are likely to disagree about the answers, such a discussion would likely be more productive than asking any of us whether we want to pay more taxes. Then, a few days later, while speaking with my spiritual muses, Joy and Mimi, I substituted the title, Taxing Love. Part of the tension in the gospel reading this morning centers around those men and women who are being welcomed into the community of faith. It should be noted that the tax collectors were Jews who worked for the Roman authorities. I found it odd that one commentator stated that the tax collector in question was actually a toll collector, as if we would be more inclined to favor. Let me start that over. I'm a little nervous. It should be noted that the tax collectors were Jews who worked for the Roman authorities. I found it odd that one commentator stated that the tax collector in question was actually a toll collector, as if we would be more inclined to pay the toll on the Sunshine Skyway Bridge as to paying sales or income taxes. Yet the greater issue is that these men, and possibly women, were collaborators with the occupying and often brutal Roman army. How does the faith community embrace such outsiders? How can we even sit at the same table? And as he sat at dinner in the house, many tax collectors and sinners came and were sitting with him and his disciples. When the Pharisees saw this, they said to his disciples, "Why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners?" Over my head, I hear singing in the air. Over my head, I hear singing in the air. Over my head, I hear singing in the air. There must be a God somewhere. A few weeks ago, Pastor Gail referred to the covenantal relationship between a pastor and his or her congregation. We speak to one another through a shared context of experience that is specific to a particular time, place, and culture. Also, pastors grow and change over time and may not necessarily agree with everything they had once said, or proclaimed from the pulpit. Even when our core values remain the same, we seek new ways to reveal familiar truths. I would also add that for me, a sermon, when well done, is a story with interweaving themes of grace and renewal, contemplation, and at times confrontation. Therefore, a sentence or paragraph plucked from a sermon would have little meaning apart from the whole. Indeed, through telling this story, I too seek to find meaning, to strive for greater understanding about the world in which I live.